San Francisco, late summer 1970. The warehouse on Folsom Street doesn't look like a recording studio from the outside. Graffiti covers the brick walls. The loading dock door hangs half open. Inside, past the broken furniture and scattered equipment cables, Sly Stone is building something Motown will never understand. Marvin Gaye stands in the doorway, watching. His hands are in his jacket pockets. He's been standing there for 3 minutes, trying to decide if this was a mistake. The drive from LA took 6 hours. He left at dawn, told his wife Anna he had a meeting with a promoter. She didn't ask questions. He stopped twice for coffee, once to check the tape. No security, no entourage, just him and a reel-to-reel tape in the passenger seat. The tape contains something he recorded 3 weeks ago in Detroit. Something Berry Gordy told him to destroy. Not suggested, told. Berry's exact words were, "If this gets out, it will confuse everything we've built with you." Marvin almost did destroy it, but his hand wouldn't open. It was the most honest thing he'd recorded since Tammy died. Sly doesn't notice Marvin at first. He's at the mixing board, layering drum machines over live percussion, creating rhythms that sound like they're arguing with each other. His band, the Family Stone, is scattered around the room. Some are playing, some are sleeping. Nobody seems to care which is which. When Sly finally looks up, he doesn't stand. "Marvin Gaye," he says, not quite a greeting. Detroit's favorite son. Marvin hears the edge in it. He's been hearing it for months now, from younger artists, from funketeers, from anyone who thinks Motown's assembly line approach is killing black music's revolutionary potential. To them, Marvin is part of the problem, a smooth voice singing safe songs for white radio. The room feels smaller suddenly. Someone turns down the music but doesn't stop it completely. Will Marvin ask them to turn it off? That's what they're waiting for. "I wanted to hear what you're working on," Marvin says. Sly lights a cigarette. "Why? So Motown can water it down and sell it back to us?" The room goes quiet. Someone laughs, but it's not friendly. Marvin stands there feeling the weight of what he represents to these people. The establishment, the compromise, the past. But that's not why he's here. "Play me something," Marvin says. Sly shrugs and hits play on a track. It's "Thank You, Falatin Me Be Mice Elfagin," but not the version that's on the radio. This is raw. The bass is distorted. The drums sound like they're recorded in a metal trash can. Sly's voice is angry, almost shouting. It's not music designed to comfort. It's music designed to confront. When it ends, Sly turns to Marvin. "That's funk, not that Motown bubblegum you sing over strings." Marvin doesn't respond immediately. He's thinking about the last conversation he had with Berry Gordy, about the tape in his car, about the song Berry called uncommercial and confused. "Can I play you something?" Marvin asks. Sly looks at his band. Someone snickers. "Sure," Sly says. "Let's hear some Detroit polish." Marvin walks back to his car. When he returns with the reel-to-reel, the room's energy has shifted. People are paying attention now, curious what the Prince of Motown Soul could possibly want to prove in this warehouse. Marvin threads the tape. His hands are steady, but something inside him is shaking. This song is everything Berry Gordy told him not to record. Political, funky, built on a wah-wah guitar riff that sounds nothing like Motown. It's Marvin's attempt to bridge the gap between what Motown wants him to be and what he hears happening in the streets. He presses play. The first sound is a bass line, not the smooth, melodic Motown bass that James Jamerson usually plays. This is funky, syncopated, aggressive. Then the wah-wah guitar comes in, dirty and raw. And then Marvin's voice, but not the falsetto everyone expects. This is his lower register, almost speaking the lyrics, half singing, half preaching. The song is about politics, about Nixon, about promising change and delivering nothing. It's angry in a way Marvin's never been allowed to be on a Motown record. The arrangement is dense, chaotic, layers of percussion fighting for space, horns that don't resolve cleanly, a bridge that shifts time signatures. Nobody in the room moves. At the 2-minute mark, Marvin's voice shifts into falsetto, but it's not romantic. It's mocking, imitating a politician's empty promises. Then he drops back down, and the funk gets heavier. The drum break is pure street, Nothing like the polished Motown sound. This is gut level, raw, the kind of thing that makes your body move before your mind catches up. When the song ends, the silence is different than before. No one's smirking now. They're all staring at the tape machine. Sly Stone is staring at the reel-to-reel like it betrayed him. His cigarette has burned down to the filter. His expression hasn't changed, but something in his posture has. The casual arrogance is gone. Finally, he speaks. "You made this?" His voice is quieter. No performance in it. "In Detroit," Marvin says. 3 weeks ago. "At Hitsville?" There's disbelief in the question. "At Hitsville." Sly stands up slowly, walks to the tape machine, rewinds it manually. He doesn't ask permission, just hits play again. This time he's listening as a musician, as someone who understands what it costs to make something real in an industry that prefers safe. The bass line hits again, the wah-wah. Marvin's voice dropping into that preaching register. Sly closes his eyes during the bridge, the part where the time signature shifts. That's the part Berry Gordy hated most. Called it confused. But it's the part that makes the song dangerous. When it ends the second time, Sly opens his eyes. He looks at Marvin differently now, as someone who might actually understand what Sly's trying to do. "Berry let you record this?" "He doesn't know about it." The room is still quiet. One of Sly's band members, a bassist, finally speaks. This is what we're trying to do. But you got that Motown training. The structure, we're just freestyling." Sly doesn't say anything for a long time. He's smoking, thinking, and Marvin can see the calculation happening behind his eyes. This isn't supposed to exist. Motown doesn't make music like this. Marvin Gaye doesn't make music like this. But here it is, and it's not a rough demo. It's fully produced, professional, and it works. "Why'd you bring this here?" Sly finally asks. Marvin sits down for the first time since entering the warehouse. "Because Berry told me to bury it. Said it would confuse my audience. Said Motown isn't in the business of protest music. Said if I release this, radio won't know what to do with me. And if they can't categorize me, they won't play me at all. So you came to show me you're not just a pretty voice." "I came because I needed someone to hear it. I needed to know I wasn't crazy." There's something vulnerable in that admission. Marvin Gaye, the man who sold millions of records, who's sung duets with Tammy Terrell, who's been the face of Motown's romantic soul sound for years, drove 6 hours to play an unreleased track for someone who'd spent the last year dismissing everything he represents. Sly plays the tape a third time. This time, he's not listening for flaws. He's listening for intent. When it ends, he turns to Marvin. "This changes things." "What things?" "The conversation. About you. About Motown." Sly pauses. "You gonna release this?" "Berry won't let me." "Then what's the point?" Marvin doesn't have an answer. He drove here hoping for validation, for confirmation that he wasn't crazy. And he got that. But that doesn't change the reality waiting for him back in Detroit. The tape sits between them, proof of something that will probably never see the light of day. "You know what your problem is," Sly says. "You're too good at what they want you to do, so they'll never let you do what you want to do." Marvin nods slowly. It's the most honest thing anyone's said to him in months. Before Marvin leaves, Sly hands him a piece of paper with a phone number. "If you ever get out from under Berry's thumb, call me. We'll make something that scares both Detroit and San Francisco." Marvin takes the paper. He never calls. Not because he doesn't want to, but because by the time he's free enough to consider it, Sly is somewhere else, fighting his own battles with record labels and expectations. You're the Man eventually gets a limited release in 1972. Motown buries it. No promotion, no push. It disappears almost immediately, and Marvin never records in that style again. Not because he can't, but because the fight to get What's Going On released a year later will take everything he has, and by the time that battle is over, he'll be too exhausted to fight another one. In 1982, 12 years after that warehouse meeting, a music journalist asked Sly Stone about Marvin Gaye during an interview for a small magazine that's trying to document the funk movement before everyone forgets how it started. Sly's in the middle of his own spiral by then, dealing with addiction and label problems, barely functioning. Living in a van sometimes, making headlines for the wrong reasons. The journalist almost doesn't ask the question, worried it'll set Sly off, trigger some paranoid rant. But when he hears Marvin's name, something clears in Sly's eyes. For a moment, he's back in that warehouse, 30 years old, still believing music could change things. Marvin showed me something in 1970, Sly says, speaking slowly, carefully, like he's translating from a language only he remembers. A tape. Funk. Real funk. Detroit funk. I didn't think it was possible. Thought Motown was too controlled for that. Too corporate. Too worried about their image. But he did it. Made something raw with their equipment, their training, their resources. And they killed it. They killed it before anyone could hear it. Buried it like it never existed. He lights a cigarette with shaking hands. That's when I knew it wasn't about talent. It was about control, about keeping people in boxes. You're the romantic singer, you stay romantic. You're the funk band, you stay funk. Cross those lines and you confuse the money, and confused money doesn't spend. The journalist asks if Sly kept in touch with Marvin after that. No, Sly says, and there's genuine regret in his voice. We were both too busy drowning, different oceans, same depth. When Marvin Gaye dies in 1984, shot by his father, Sly Stone is in Los Angeles. He hears the news on the radio. He's in a motel room, broke, strung out, forgotten. And for reasons he can't articulate, he thinks about that warehouse in 1970, about Marvin standing in the doorway with a tape. He thinks about that piece of paper with the phone number, about the collaboration that never happened, about two black artists fighting different battles with the same machine. You're the Man exists now as a footnote in Marvin Gaye's catalog. Most people who hear it don't know about the warehouse, the meeting, the validation Marvin drove 6 hours to find. They don't know that Sly Stone heard that song and understood immediately what it meant. They don't know that Marvin won that day. Won by proving that the boxes people put artists in are smaller than the artists themselves. Won by showing that Motown's smooth romantic Prince could make music that was raw and political. But they also don't know what happened after. How Berry Gordy buried the song. How Marvin never recorded in that style again. How the validation from Sly Stone meant nothing in the face of Motown's machinery. The warehouse on Folsom Street is gone now. Torn down in the 1980s to make room for tech offices. The tape Marvin played that night exists in Motown's archives, but it's not the version most people hear. The funkier elements were stripped out before the limited release, made safer, more palatable. Somewhere in the alternate timeline, where Berry Gordy said yes instead of no, You're the Man becomes a hit. Marvin records more funk. The collaboration with Sly Stone happens. Black music's trajectory shifts slightly. But in this timeline, the one that actually occurred, the song vanishes. The meeting becomes legend, and two men who briefly understood each other go back to their separate struggles, carrying the weight of what could have been. Marvin never spoke publicly about that day in San Francisco, but people who worked with him in the studio after 1970 noticed something different, a restlessness, a willingness to push back harder against Motown's restrictions, the confidence to fight for what's going on when everyone told him it would end his career. Maybe it came from Tammy Terrell's death. Maybe it came from watching the Vietnam War destroy his brother. Maybe it came from personal pain that had nothing to do with music. But maybe, just maybe, some of it came from a warehouse in San Francisco, where Sly Stone stopped laughing and started listening. And maybe that was enough. Not victory, not recognition, just the knowledge that the music he was hearing in his head wasn't crazy, that someone else, someone whose opinion mattered, heard it too and understood. In the end, that's all artists really want, to be heard, to be understood, to know that the risks they're taking aren't just self-destruction dressed up as creativity. Marvin got that from Sly Stone for 3 minutes and 42 seconds, the length of one song. It wasn't enough to save him, but for a moment, standing in that warehouse, it was enough to keep him going.